Many of us may have an age in mind when we'd like to retire, but for some it ends up being earlier than that traditional retirement age of 65. In fact, Go Banking Rates says the average retirement age here in Michigan is 62 years old. So when does it make sense to retire early, and how can you even make that happen? Joining us to discuss that is Gary Mattson and Taylor Steward of Mattson Financial Services. That's a firm that's been helping West Michigan families retire successfully for decades. Gary, Taylor, welcome. Do you think that average is right here in Michigan, 62? Does that sound right to you guys?
I'd say it's about right. And I think last year, with COVID, it's even brought in more early retirees. People want to adjust their lifestyles. But when it comes to retiring early, there's always a lot of things to consider when you're going to retire, but especially when you're going to retire early. Are you pre-Medicare age, so meaning under 65? If that's the case, are you going to have to get health care from the marketplace? Or is your spouse still working and you're going to get health care coverage from them? There's a lot of things like that need to come into play to make sure that you can afford to retire. Other things like, did your company, do they offer a pension? Was there a lump sum or early retirement option for you so you're not being penalized for taking these assets out of accounts pre-59 and a half? So I think last year definitely were some bigger changes, and we're starting to see people retire earlier and earlier. And that's really exciting for us. It means more people are getting out there and enjoying these years they've saved so hard over the years to live this lifestyle.
That is a lot to consider, Taylor. I mean, if you're wanting to retire early, I mean, that's basically the questions you ask to help someone answer that question, if they can retire early, right, Gary?
Well, Ed Slott said it the best, as he's an IRA guru. And he said that most advisors are not trained on taking money out, they're trained in taking money in. And if they do well for their clients, if the client loses 15, 20, 30% in that in taxes, all they really set up is an annuity payment for the government. So retirement has its own new set of rules. So people getting ready to retire or are retired, they've got a whole different background to deal with. Taxation, like Taylor said, insurances. What's the best way to do these things without being penalized? And people don't realize sometimes that when you take Social Security benefits, you can actually put yourself in a tax bracket so that your Social Security benefits are now a taxable event. And then, of course, you're leaving early. So are you going to run out of money? Or are you going to be able to do the things you want to do and not have fear that you're going to run out of money? These are all uncertainties that most people have when they enter that retirement question. They always think when we're putting it away that, hey, we're in the marathon, we finally made it, we're at the finish line. No, this is just the second part of the race now.
Fun's just beginning, right?
Yep.
And so, obviously, retiring early sounds great, but all these considerations that you just put out there, all these different facets that can affect whether that is feasible or even a smart move, how do you help someone pull the trigger? How do you get those answers?
So like Gary had mentioned, really figuring out what is your critical income need, the amount of money we need every single month to cover those everyday bills, and then things like, again, is your spouse working? Do we have additional income coming in outside of investable assets that we're using to create that income stream? And then how are we diversified outside of just the investments in your accounts, but how are you diversified tax-wise? Do we have tax-free buckets? Do we have tax-deferred, meaning those IRAs and 401ks, which is going to be the most common for everybody? And then those taxable assets, the after-tax savings, and those types of brokerage accounts. And now picking and choosing where can we pull those funds to make sure that your critical income need is met now, but for the rest of your retirement, the rest of your life and your spouse's life. And then we invest the rest of those assets slightly differently for your lifestyle. Taking the grandkids to Disney or buying that cottage on the lake up north, those types of things.
So it sounds like even if you can make it work financially, like some may be able to, should you retire early is really the question. But it's really about having options, right?
Yeah, it's really an emotional time also. Let's face it, if the math works, are you really ready to give up the social aspects of working, the people you are camaraderie with or hang out with and those type of things? What are you going to do in retirement? And there's a reason you want to retire early. Maybe it's physical. Maybe it's family things going on dynamics that you really need to do. So there's a lot of different emotional things to look at as well besides just the financials. One of the things we always point out to our future clients when they come in the door, if you can't walk out the door with at least 100% of your take-home money now, you can't afford to do it. So again, the math's got to work, but what's going on emotionally also?
And of course, that plan is so important. I mean, you still need to figure out a plan, even if you do want to keep working. I mean, it isn't something you can just put off until you want to retire, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a lot of people that come through the door and say, well, how much money do I need to retire? And that's a tough question. There's no set answer. It's what type of lifestyle do you have now? Do you want to maintain and change maybe some things in the future? And sometimes people come through the door, well, I don't need as much income as I have now, working. And that's not the case. A lot of times we see people, health insurance costs may go up, or we're doing these other fun things that cost money, right? Maybe not going out to lunch every day with the coworkers, but these things still all add up. And so it really starts with figuring out, where are you at? What's your critical income need? What type of lifestyle do you want to maintain? And then we work those numbers back into the plan to make sure that we do have enough assets to maintain and sustain a good lifestyle all the way through our retirement years.
Yeah, last week we had some people come in and they looked at the numbers and said, yep, we can go early. We got it. Now they were planning on 2.5 to maybe 3 years down the road, and all of a sudden something came up in their life that changed, and that is that mom needed help. So he actually called us up 3 days later and said, you know what? I'm pulling the trigger, I'm done. Get me set up, move my money so we can start the income at the end of this year. So again, knowing he had the opportunity, and then something changed in their family because he knew he had the opportunity, had the information, he can make a credible decision.
Well, we always say, well, we got to look at critical income need. We got to look at your assets and come up with this plan, but it really starts with just beginning that plan right now. Getting that second look, or meeting with a fiduciary financial advisor and starting that first step, because you may be pleasantly surprised and find out that you could walk out tomorrow if you want, and then it makes walking through the door every single day a little bit more fun, knowing that at any point you could just say, yep, I'm done with this place, right? Or maybe I still want to work, I just want a career path change, so I'm going to go into something that's a little less stress involved, and those are really great avenues and moves for people as well.
Yeah, you're working because you want to.
Yeah.
Oh, all great scenarios, and a lot of different scenarios out there, but for those watching who may be dealing with those types of scenarios, either trying to figure out how they could retire early, or as you mentioned, if it's even right for them to do right now, what's the very first step? What should we do?
We'll put together a financial roadmap, a plan, to show not only what income, what taxes, how to do with insurance, all the questions answered, and then they have a roadmap to go when they're ready.
We've got a pretty generous offer out there. Thank you so much. Complimentary always works. So if you're thinking of retiring early, wondering if you can even make that work, take advantage of this great offer. Be one of those first 5 callers, and the team at Mattson Financial Services will sit down with you to discuss your goals and create that customized retirement plan just for you. This is a comprehensive plan to help you get you through it, to it, all of it. Get to that retirement. Call now, 616-514-3831. That's 616-514-3831. Gary, Taylor, thanks for the time.
Thanks, Dad.
Yes, thank you.